It's day 6 of our cruise, and today we're in Cozumel, Mexico. Cozumel is one of the most common ports in the Western Caribbean. Chances are, if you sail out of Galveston or if you have a Western Caribbean itinerary, you're going to Cozumel. On this trip to Cozumel, since we were sailing on Carnival Jubilee, we were at Puerta Maya, which is the port or the terminal that Carnival Cruise Line uses. Puerta Maya is very similar to the port that Royal Caribbean uses in Cozumel, and guess what? They're right next door to each other. Royal Caribbean uses the international terminal, Carnival Cruise Line uses Puerta Maya. Puerto Maya has a bunch of shops and restaurants. You can find just about any souvenir you're looking for in this little area. And there's even a taxi terminal that'll take you to just about anywhere on the island of Cozumel. So, what are we doing in Cozumel on this trip? Well, we're going to rent a car and we're going to explore the island on our own. As a random cruise tip, before you get off the ship in a cruise port, make sure you check the ship's time and compare it to the time that it actually is in port. As an example, Cozumel has a different time than Galveston, so your ship's time is going to be different. One thing we learned on Carnival Jubilee is the Carnival app does not show you the ship's time unless you're connected to the Carnival Wi-Fi, which can be a problem if you don't know what time it actually is. Nicole and I rented a buggy from this little stand inside the Mayan Plaza, and we were given a converted Nissan, which was made to be waterproof without a roof. Don't worry though, there's a canvas roof just in case it rains a little bit like it did on our trip to Cozumel this time. Now, the main thing that we wanted to do on this trip by renting a car was to do the loop around the island, which went all the way to the east end of the island, the south end of the island, and then back around to where we started at. When we left the Mayan Plaza, we drove through the city of Cozumel, which was a unique experience because you got to see a side of Cozumel that you don't get to see mostly when you only take excursions. This was a very scenic drive to the east end of the island, right through the heart of Cozumel Island. Now let's show you everything that we saw and did on this tour of the island on our own. And I'm going to give you a few random cruise tips along the way. You want to be mindful of who's driving around you. There is a lot of scooters and a lot of taxis. The scooters are slower and they take up, because they're tourists, they take up a chunk of the road. The taxis are like Crazy Taxi from that old Sega Genesis or that Sega Dreamcast video game, and they will pass you going 100 kilometers an hour or higher just to get where they're going. So the best thing to do is kind of give people space and kind of go off to the right center of the road just to make sure if people want to pass you, they have room to, and you have no clue who's coming up from behind you a lot of times. And when you see a scooter, just kind of get over a little bit to the left and give them enough space as well. Just pay attention. The first place that we stopped on the east coast of Cozumel was a place called Playa Punta Morena. This place is a little resort that is right there on the beach. When you pull into the parking lot, there is a restaurant, a bar, some shops, like a massage parlor, and a few other things there for like a getaway. There is a really, really nice beach here. And then the beach is public. So you can just walk over to the beach. You don't have to go to the shops or to the bar or the restaurant. You can just sit on the beach, walk on the beach, and just check out the amazing sights. If you want to use any of the other services that are at this little resort, you will have to buy either food or a drink or spend money in the shops because that is kind of how they run it. But the beach does have public access, and it was amazing. Just an incredible beach there on the east coast of Cozumel.
Oh, wow.
The drive along the East Coast is incredible. You're right along some mangroves on one side and then the beach on the other side. And every so often you get a great glimpse of the beach and it just looks spectacular. The main reason that we wanted to do this drive on our own was one, so we could see more of the island without having to be behest to an excursion or a tour group. We can kind of just go at our own pace. But the other thing is we wanted to go back to a place that we really enjoyed on our last excursion in Cozumel, which is the Mojito Factory. This little stand on the east coast of the island, right there on the beach, has some of the best mojitos that you can find anywhere in the world, in our opinion. They're made fresh. They make them right there in front of you in a molcajete, and it's just incredible. Just sit right there in a chair, stare out into the ocean. It's just relaxing. It's why you go on vacation. We absolutely love it. This place also sells food. Just remember, it is cash only. So if you want to get some homemade tacos or a mojito or some other food or drink here, you do have to pay in cash. And another cool thing about this place is they have puppies. So if you want to pet some puppies, at least on this trip, they had plenty of them running around that you could just pet. We are in Cozumel, Mexico on our final port day aboard Carnival Jubilee. We're on the south end, the southeast end of Cozumel Island at a little mojito stand that we visited the last time we were here on Voyager of the Seas. And guess what? Mojitos. Probably some of the best mojitos you can get anywhere on the planet. They're homemade. They have like chunks of mint and fruit and all kinds of stuff in here. They're really, really good. You can't even taste the alcohol. Is there alcohol in these?
I mean,
probably.
He poured a bottle that said it was alcohol.
Yeah, but it's really good. We are driving a buggy around the island, stopping every so often to see different points of the east end of the island, which the east end of the island probably has some of the best beaches. And they do have large waves and it can get windy over here, but overall least amount of people, probably the best beaches and overall best scenery on Cozumel if you're not at like a private destination on the west end of the island. So we're gonna continue driving, going through each one of the stops and seeing what else there is on this side of the island.
Water's so blue. And like it's like perfect sand.
So we rented a buggy, a dune buggy, a converted Nissan, I don't know what to call it. They called it a buggy, from a little place next to the Mayan Plaza, which is across the street from the terminal that Carnival and Royal Caribbean use. So there's a big, gigantic, fake Mayan pyramid in the middle of it. It's actually where we went to go to an excursion that we booked on the Shore Excursions group when we were on Voyager of the Seas last year. It's a little hole in the wall. They give you an option of different cars that you can rent, from a Jeep all the way down to a minivan. We selected a little buggy. It's an open air. It's got a soft top you can open up, but it's been raining off and on, so we kept that closed. It cost us roughly $100 US to rent this for the day. We actually negotiated that down from 120 down to 100. There are some taxes and some insurances you can purchase for it. And of course you got to pay for gas. So we're about $139 into this rental. And it's allowed us to go to the entire island, basically. We drove across the center of the island, and now we're driving across the east end, and then we'll drive across the west end back up there. We'll have to find a gas station to get a little bit of gas. So this is a great way to get away from the crowds and an excursion, because an excursion will cost you way more than what we spent. So far, as long as this thing doesn't break down.
Don't say that.
And we don't get stuck somewhere or in an accident or get pulled over by the cops for speeding, it seems like a good idea. We've stopped at a couple of places along the road. The east end of the island is gorgeous, way better than the west end of the island. And we're gonna drive by Punta Sur, which is the South Point National Area. and then probably head back up to town because we only have about an hour and a half left until all aboard. We got to get on the ship. We still got to get gas. Hopefully we can find some. What do you think, Nicole?
I've had a really good time. I would recommend this. I think this was a much better option than a shore excursion. Our last excursion in Cozumel, we actually got really lucky because no one else showed up. So it was just us and the tour guide. And so he was the one that took us down to this side of the island, took us to this mojito stand. Yeah.
And if you do want a good mojito, it's called the Mojito Factory on the east end of the island. Very good, homemade. He makes them right there in front of you in a molcajete. So we're going to continue driving and hopefully get back to the ship in one piece, and we'll see you on board. One of the things that you should be mindful of if you're going to be driving around Cozumel by yourself on a personal tour, no excursion, is you probably should bring cash. Everywhere you go, if you spend cash, they are much happier than if you use a credit card. And then places like we just went to with the Mojito Factory, they don't actually take credit cards at all. And you can actually negotiate occasionally a lower rate if you're paying in cash rather than a credit card, because they don't have to pay fees on that sort of stuff. So make sure you bring cash if you're deciding to do any type of private excursions or personal tour, or you're just driving around on your own. Because in Mexico, or at least in Cozumel, cash is definitely king if you want to get some stuff for yourself or who you're traveling with, or get a discount. Just be mindful of that. When we were done driving around, we drove all the way to the east end of the island, to the south point, and then around back into the city of Cozumel. And we were ready to turn the car in because we had to get back to the ship. We had to get gas. So we stopped at a gas station right next to the Mayan Plaza. And just so you were aware, you cannot pump your own gas on Cozumel. I don't know if it's just the station that I went to or if the entire island is like this altogether, but somebody does have to pump your gas. It cost me about $16 to fill up the car. I didn't have to put $16 in there because I didn't use that much gasoline driving around, but I just filled it up. Why not? Be nice to somebody, I guess. Now, why did we rent a car versus doing an island tour or just paying a taxi to drive us to the other side of the island? There are prices for the taxi services right there at the port. So in Puerta Maya, there's a sign there where you get into taxis, and they list all kinds of services and places that you can go. One of those is a tour of the island. Right there on the sign, about 3/4 of the way down, from 1 to 4 passengers in a taxi, it'll cost you $135 for an island tour. There's even some non-stop island tours that are around $100. There's a full city tour that's $115. So you can get some tours done from the taxis, but we wanted to do it on our own, go at our own pace, and not have to have somebody else drive us around. It was a little bit cheaper. We paid $100 for the rental car, but obviously adding taxes and insurance and gas, it got up to about $135, $139. And we were able to just go at our own pace, see what we wanted to see, stop where we wanted to stop, and just kind of take in everything that we wanted to see on Cozumel during this trip. He's old. Yeah, he's lifting up. That's the international symbol for get back. When they bite, they shake. And they'll like saw into your skin. We're back at the port, ready to get back onto the ship. We'll probably walk around this little area a couple more times before doing so. We got about an hour. But we just turned the car in. We got gas in the car. And one thing to really think about when you do leave the port area and you're looking to rent one of these little buggies or a Jeep or whatever, is there's going to be all kinds of merchants and vendors and shopkeepers and stuff that are going to try and get your attention and basically get you to rent from them. And there's signs and little booths set up all over the streets. We selected ours because it was in the Mayan Plaza, which is around the corner. And they actually had like a little storefront. It looks a little bit more official than just some guy slinging on the street, but you might have luck with the other ones as well. We enjoyed the experience, no issues right now. Maybe we'll have an issue when we check our credit card statement later, but I doubt it. It was really good and they had great customer service. The guys there were super helpful and super friendly. And we'll probably use them again in March when we're here on Mariner of the Seas. At least that's what I'm thinking. We would have explored a little bit more, but we just didn't have enough time. We got up a little bit later today. I think next time we'll go to Puerta Sur and then maybe go a little bit north of the main city of Cozumel. But so far, great day. Enjoy the east end of the island. The car was great, good idea, and good day in Cozumel. Time to get back on the ship and get some food because I'm hungry. Right, Nicole?
Right.
Let's go. So Nicole, it was elegant night. What did we do in the main dining room tonight?
So it was the second formal or elegant night of the cruise. And on most mainstream cruise lines, if you're on a 7-night cruise, that means it is lobster night.
Definitely was lobster night.
So tonight in the main dining room, we had lobster. They also had prime rib and creme brulee for dessert.
Yes. So how would you compare lobster night on Carnival to what we're used to on Royal Caribbean?
I will say, we spoke about this at dinner. We kind of thought that they pulled some of the wait staff from maybe the specialty dining venues, as they're usually not so busy on nights such as lobster night because everyone just wants to go get free lobster. Because the service, we had a new waiter this evening, even though we were in our usual section, and he was really good.
One thing to be mindful of on lobster night on Carnival Jubilee is that it's going to be much busier in the main dining room than it normally is. So make sure you check in the app much earlier. We checked in just after 5 p.m. and our table wasn't ready until almost 7 p.m. So almost 2 hours to get a table. So how was the food on lobster night? Because that's what matters the most. And we hadn't had lobster night on a cruise in a long time, because usually you have to have a 7-night cruise. And the last couple of hours have been in Europe, and then on Icon we ate in Coastal Kitchen. The lobster was excellent. It was very tender, very buttery, and overall very good. The prime rib was decent. It's prime rib on a cruise ship. And then the pasta I had as an appetizer was just okay. Besides the lobster, the shining star of this dinner was the creme brulee. If you like creme brulee, listen to this.
Is it past the test? No, it might.
So overall, lobster night on Carnival Jubilee was really good. We recommend it. It's a can't miss on your cruise aboard Carnival Jubilee.
After dinner, one of the shows tonight in the center stage area was the Rio Carnival, which is a tribute to Brazil and the music and dancing from that region. They also do a little mini parade kind of through the channels area, which is fun. It was cool. The costumes were really nice. The set was actually pretty nice. I know most of it is the digital background, but it does look nice. But it was really quick actually. The show was only about 20 minutes.
Yeah, the parade was about 10 minutes and the show was about 20 minutes. One thing to be mindful of with the shows in center stage on Carnival Jubilee is that depending on where you're seating, you might not be able to actually see the stage. So we recommend kind of scoping it out before a show starts and find a good spot where you can see the stage and get there a little bit early. The Rio Carnival show was pretty good. They had some really good dancing, really good music, and there was even some aerialists above the stage. I think the shows, or at least most of the shows that happen in the center stage area, overall are better than the shows that take place in the Jubilee Theater. but the one downside is the location. I wish Carnival Jubilee had a lounge like the 270 lounge on the Quantum class ships from Royal Caribbean, where it's relaxed yet still can be used better as a performing venue. But what can you do? Just make sure you get to the venues early, find a good seat that you can see the stage on, and then enjoy these shows, especially Rio Carnival. That'll wrap up our 6th day on this 7-night cruise aboard Carnival Jubilee. If you have any questions about anything that we've done on this cruise, or anything that we did on the island of Cozumel, including renting the car and checking out the beaches on the east end of the island, which we think are some of the best beaches in the Western Caribbean, leave those in the comment section below. If you'd like to support our channel, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. If you need us, we're tired, but we might end up going up to that late night buffet up there in the Lido Marketplace. And I'm Travis.
I'm Nicole.
Thanks so much for watching.